Well, thank you for tuning in today. I'm CJ Ferry.
And I'm Chip Camara. Welcome to the show.
And this, of course, is Spindle City Straight Talk. Since our last show, my phone's been ringing off the hook, and we've been getting email messages, and it seems like there's a major issue going on in the city right now, specifically with our school system. It's come up from a former Fall River Public School teacher, and this has started going viral, and it's something that's very important. And after this started going viral, I received a phone call from a parent of a student with Asperger's at the Morton Middle School. So let's start with that, and we'll go on to what the school teacher had to say. I received a phone call from a parent of a student with Asperger's. She is a biracial student who has been bullied, abused, and had unacceptable and inappropriate sexual comments and actions made towards her by another student. The parent has been making numerous complaints to the school's administration, including the vice principal and the principal, with the returns that maybe she's just too sensitive. And I think they were kind of dismissing it based upon her Asperger's syndrome, which, for those of you who don't know, students with Asperger's do have some social issues. But again, regardless of what the child's diagnosis may be, this was a valid complaint. The parent finally got very frustrated as the school was not doing anything to protect her child, and she went in one last time to speak to them and said, if you don't do something to protect my child, I'm going to have to go to the police department. She went down to the police department and spoke to a lieutenant who said, I will immediately investigate it and go up to the school. They went to the school, and the student which has been making the alleged actions was suspended. Instead of leaving the school immediately, I guess he made some racial comments and other comments in the classroom towards the student, and the class got inflamed towards the victim. And the teacher was even taken aback and couldn't support it. The school doesn't have a school resource officer at this time because the student resource officer is out on workers' comp because she has been attacked by students. And this student, who's been a victim of all these attacks, is staying home because she doesn't feel safe in the school because there's been threats to do bodily harm and even death threats against her. And again, the school really isn't doing anything about this. I, in turn, called several members of the school committee and advised them and gave them the parent's phone number for them to contact this parent. And I don't know where this is going to go. But I think this is a dangerous situation in our schools, especially a multi-million-dollar school like Morton, where the more money that we have put into the system, the better the school is going to be. I mean, what do you think about that, Chip?
Well, I think it's an extremely dangerous situation. We have to address it. We need a full accountability and transparency. It's ironic that this happens and it coincides with what happened in Steubenville, Ohio. I don't know if anybody has been up to speed on this issue, but the superintendent of schools in Steubenville has been charged with tampering of evidence and obstruction of justice and is facing 7 years in jail for attempting to quash an investigation into a sexual issue there. And there are 3 or 4 other members of the school department in Steubenville who are facing criminal charges from the district attorney. This is a real issue here. Regardless of what the outcome is, whenever there's a complaint of inappropriate sexual activity, it has to be investigated immediately. It shouldn't take a parent filing numerous complaints and going to the police department. The fact that we have a police officer that was injured so severely that she's out while she was breaking up an altercation at that school is sending a message that this school may be totally out of control. And if they're covering this up, they may be obstructing justice.
It reminds me of the phrase, who's running the asylum here? Are the inmates running the asylum? I mean, it's a scary thought that our students are quite possibly in danger, that they can't go to school in safety. And it was interesting because after this situation with this parent and this child, a former Fall River school teacher who left the Fall River School Department because she no longer felt safe, and she went to another school district, sent a letter to the mayor. And I have a copy of that letter, and that letter is dated November 22nd at 2:55 p.m. Mayor Flanagan, I'm a former teacher of the Fall River Public Schools, and I decided to leave the system to obtain a job in another district for many reasons. Actually, too many reasons to mention on your page, but I plan on speaking at a school committee meeting very soon about the causes as well as the problems facing our students and the staff in many of the schools, especially Morton Middle School. I can't begin to praise the faculty and staff of the Fall River Public Schools enough. You are very lucky to have the brightest, hardest working, and most dedicated teachers that I've ever worked with in Fall River, but you are going to lose many of them if you and the school committee don't do something about the problems in the schools, i.e. administration, and in capital letters, Meg Mayo Brown. Please tell me what the school committee is doing to address the fact that there was an overdose in the cafeteria of Morton, a knife brought into Morton, a group of students passing out pills, Percocet, to other students during school hours at Morton, students drinking vodka from water bottles in Morton. The list goes on and on. Mr. Mayor, I keep in contact with more than 50% of my former students from the 4 years I taught in the city, and many of them are at Morton and have reached out to me for various reasons, and I will take a stand for them. They have mentioned that they know they run the school, that administration yells at the teachers in front of them, are in classes that don't count so they don't care. Well, I care. I care that my former students are in an unsafe school. I care that my former colleagues are being belittled and forced to teach in an environment that is not conducive to teaching and learning. I care about the city that I was born and raised in, the city that I received my education in, the city that I own properties in, and most of all, the city my daughter will be raised in. However, I will not send my daughter to the Fall River Public School system because it is failing. Let me make myself clear. It is not failing because of the faculty and staff, but rather because of the administration and, again, in capital letters, Meg Mayo Brown. When and if I address the school committee, I plan on making quite the statement with the Herald News, local news stations, and my former students in attendance. Please visit Morton, Mr. Mayor. I assure you that you will meet some of the finest teachers. You will meet some of the finest students, but you may just be surprised at what else you might see. And interestingly enough, the writer of this letter, again, who's a former teacher, her name is Kristen Ford, posted this letter on Facebook, and it has gone viral. People from all over the city say they're going to support her on December 9th when her and many, many supporters and students are going to show up at the school committee meeting. I believe that's going to be held at the Henry Lord School, which has been closed, to support safety for our students. Now, Ms. Ford made comments to the Herald News, and the Herald News would not post her comments and deleted some that she posted in the public input commentary section. And I guess she was apprised, as she's posted on Facebook, and after I had a conversation with her last evening, that they told her they cannot post anything that's derogatory or negative towards the mayor, the city council, or the school committee. Where's fair and unbiased journalism? I guess that doesn't exist in Fall River. So what she has had to do is she's had to reach out to other media outlets. So I gave her all my press contacts at Channel 6, 10, and 12, Channel 25, Fox News, and told her, contact these people and see if they'll come down and tape it. I mean, this is a big issue. This is going viral. But when you have a former school teacher who left the school department because it was unsafe even for her, we have a problem. And the funny thing is, if you remember on this show, we spoke about the fact that Meg Mayo Brown said to Barry Richard on WSAR and had a meeting with her staff before Morton Middle School opened that said, this will be, not maybe, not possibly, not we have to avoid it, but this will be a level 4 school before the end of the year. And she confirmed that comment on with Barry Richard on WSAR. This speaks a lot to what the administration, Meg Mayo Brown, and the mayor want for Morton Middle School, and it seems to me that they've got it.
Well, I think they've gotten a lot more than they've bargained for. This letter is extremely troubling. These allegations of students drinking vodka, in class, in the school from water bottles, bringing a knife in, a student overdosing in the cafeteria. It seems, how do these students manage to be out of the classroom and in places where they can do these things without some type of supervision? We have police officers being injured, breaking up fights. This is more than a small problem, I think. I truly believe that we have a situation here where we've totally lost control of this. And I'll remind everybody out there, Meg Mayo Brown's contract was renewed only because they removed one of the, I believe it was Joe Martin's, school committeeman Joe Martin's evaluation. The only way that her contract was renewed was they had to remove a negative evaluation from school committeeman Joe Martin's. And that speaks volumes about the way this city is being run. If we have a superintendent who can't make the cut, we change the rules. We eliminate a few of the bad reviews so we can keep her. This may be one of the worst decisions that the mayor has ever made.
And let's also remember, she got what was it, a $20,000 raise, plus we paid for her PhD, which she dropped out of the program. So we didn't get that money back. We're not getting the raise back. Meg Mayo Brown, you want to pay back the city? I'd appreciate it. What do you think about that? I mean, this is like let's pay for failure, isn't it? We have other city department heads that get paid for failure. Why should it be any different here?
Well, I think that's what's really troubling. We talk here a lot, and people will say, well, we're kind of pointing out a lot of things that we may be nitpicking, but the fact is, how can we expect our city to move forward? How can we expect to truly believe that our taxes are being spent well, when in fact we have in DPW we have someone who continually screwed up. I won't sugarcoat it. He screwed up, and he's gotten pay raises. He's still on the job, and we have a superintendent of schools who really didn't cut the mustard, whose contract shouldn't have been renewed, and she got a pay raise, and she got her PhD paid for, which she didn't complete. Now, if you don't complete something, I think that you are now on the hook for the money. I don't think the city should be paying for someone who failed in her PhD program. I think she's failing in more than her PhD program. I think she's failing to run this school system. I think this school system has to be looked at closely. The school committee has to be involved. I had a conversation with school committeeman Joe Martins yesterday. He said the first he heard of this situation was when CJ called. That is totally unacceptable. When the school committee is kept in the dark about these issues, when the citizens are kept in the dark about these issues, and more so when the parents of the children who send their kids every single day to Morton Middle School are not apprised of the danger that their children are in, that is, as far as I'm concerned, malfeasance on the part of all the city officials, and especially the superintendent of schools.
The thing that scares me more than anything else is the fact that we have students that are in the middle school, and let's just remove the name of the school for a second here, of a middle school that are bringing weapons, alcohol, and drugs into the school. Do we really want to think that it's just this one school? Could we be that naive? Or could this be happening at other schools as well? I can tell you that when I've been at Durfee, and I have been at Durfee on several occasions over the past couple of weeks, picking up different items that I need either from Fall River Government Television or from the Keeley Library, because they keep a lot of the old records. I've seen the school security escorting students out of the building because they've been fighting with weapons. Two girls, they're fighting with weapons, and the security officers holding the weapons and escorting them out and taking their student IDs to take their names down. That doesn't cut it. That doesn't cut it. The school system is failing our children. And we've heard from the mayor, We've heard from Meg Mayo Brown that the Fall River school system is the blueprint for the nation. I hope not. I hope not. Because it's not the school system, they're talking about Cuss. Well, if Cuss is the blueprint for the nation, why isn't it the blueprint for Fall River? Why isn't all our schools using the same pattern? If it's the blueprint for a level 1 school, why isn't every school in Fall River a level 1 school?
Well, because it's the blueprint of how to get the old adage, figures don't lie, but liars can figure. What they did was they moved the trouble around, and now they seem to be isolating the trouble at Morton. They're going to create what we had in the old days as a Ruggles. Years ago in Fall River, we had a school called Ruggles, and that's where they sent all the disciplinary problems and all the kids who were having issues and the kids who couldn't really get their grades up. And it was basically to babysit them until they were old enough to leave school. But I see another major issue here. The schools are not supposed to be a safe haven to commit criminal acts. And that's what we have here. Taking drugs and having drugs in your possession is a crime. Having a weapon and using it is a crime. Underage drinking is a crime. And these crimes were committed in the Fall River public schools. What the hell is wrong? What is wrong with this picture? The school department doesn't prosecute these children for violating the law? Do they even inform their parents? What message are we sending to these children?
Well, that's the biggest question I have. I mean, do you know that when there was the assault of 4 students at Morton, we didn't hear about that for, 3 or 4 weeks later? And even then, it was minimized. So all these things are going on at Morton and probably other schools throughout the city, and we're not hearing about them. The school department has to take a hard line. And I'm going to ask every city school committee member to take the hard line, which you've refused to do. You've refused to do it with spirit wear, which I don't like calling it that. It is what it is. It's called uniforms. Okay? It should be in every school from elementary to high school. Stop coddling, okay? It's got to stop somewhere, okay? Put it in place everywhere. Stop the disciplinary problems right at the beginning. You put them in and you stop them right away, okay? When a child violates the disciplinary code, there's repercussions for that. If they're doing something illegal, they get escorted out of the school in handcuffs, and they get taken to juvenile court. That's what has to happen. Let the juvenile court system. We have a juvenile court system. I've been at the police station. I've seen them having it. Okay, that youth court. We need to have that. We need to put that through. And then if they can't get it right after that one chance, they need to go to juvenile court. But we need to put the disciplinary action in place, and we need to stop it now. Because if we let it go too much longer, we're not going to be able to take control.
Well, we have to do more than just academically educate our children. We have an obligation as parents, and our school system has an obligation to prepare our youth to become adults and live in the adult world. And the adult world doesn't forgive these kind of things. There is accountability in the real world. There are consequences for your actions in the real world. And the only way to teach these children what they're in for is when they commit a crime, to prosecute that crime and send a strong message to the rest of the students that if you commit a crime, you will be prosecuted for that crime just as if you committed it out in the street, and that you will be held accountable and there will be consequences for negative actions, just as there is consequences for positive action. You get accolades. But we have to teach these kids about the real world. We cannot create some kind of cloistered environment where these children feel they're insulated from the real world, and then when they're 18, they just walk out the door and welcome to the cold, cruel world, and they can't adapt, and we wonder why.
You know, it's really interesting because I know that there are some parents out there who are watching us, and they'll say, well, you know, when I was a kid, I drank, and, you know, I used to smoke, and I swore, and blah, 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 blah. Well, ask yourself, did you smoke and drink in school? Well, when you were in school, you probably snuck out the back into the courtyard and you smoked outside and you did that. And I can remember when I went to Durfee, which was very funny because when I went to Durfee, the courtyard outside the cafeteria, everyone who smoked used to be out there sitting on the wall smoking a cigarette. And we were all kids. I mean, I never smoked, but I mean, all my friends who smoked were outside and they didn't look down on it. So they kind of adjusted for it then, but they've stopped all that. And when I was a kid, 16, 15, I know I drank. All kids do it, but they don't do it in school. I mean, I'm sure you did it when you were a kid, you know. You had your days with your friends and, you know, we all did it. But we weren't dumb enough to do it in school and get in trouble for it. We hid it and we did it with our friends somewhere in the woods or in the cellar or, you know, but...
Well, I think there's a fundamental difference here. When we did it, we knew it was an unacceptable behavior.
Exactly.
By the society and by the school system and by our parents. We all drink. I drink. But when I did, I made sure that my father didn't find out because there would be consequences. And I made sure I didn't drink in school. And I made sure that I went to school. Because if I didn't, there were consequences. And it seems that today we've gotten away from that. It seems that we look for reasons and excuses not to hold people accountable, especially teenagers. And I think it should be just the opposite.
Yeah, you know, I'm tired of hearing, well, they're just kids, they need another chance. And, you know, when I grew up, when you grew up, we knew, you know, a hairbrush to the backside, the paddle, a good backhander, we got it all the time. Today, you even talk about doing that, you know, they want to throw you in jail. But I think that's possibly one of the reasons why, you know, a lot of kids are doing what they do, because the first thing they say is, I'm calling family service. And, you know, parents are afraid to even discipline their own children at times. But what we need to do now is, we need to hold people accountable for what's happening in our schools. And the people that are accountable for what's happening in our schools are our vice principals, our mayor, our school committee, and Meg Mayo Brown. And they're being paid to take care of this. And Meg Mayo Brown said this was going to be a level 4 school. This is going to become the next Ruggles College of Knowledge. I mean, I remember calling it that, okay?
Yeah, we all did, I guess.
We all did, yeah. I mean, and now it's now called the RPS school. And as a matter of fact, they want to create an RPS school for middles.
Exactly.
Middle grade classes. So what are we going to do? We're going to just keep making more and more special schools to just make it easier on everyone else? I mean...
Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. On December 9th, I'm going to be at the school committee meeting to support Kristen Ford. And I'm going to ask everybody out there that watches this program to be out there to support her. Because I think we have to send a message more to the mayor and to the superintendent of schools and to the school committee that we are now paying attention. And if something isn't done and done quickly and dramatically, that we will be there and we will do what we have to do to make sure that the safety of the children who go to Morton Middle School to be educated is taken care of. And with that, I will remind CJ it's your turn for your editorial comment.
It's my week, I know. You know, it's sad that our city has come to the point that we hear in every election year that education is a #1 priority and taxes are a #1 priority and responsibility in government is a #1 priority. And then the day after the election, none of it happens. Because you know what happens the day after election? You elected me, I don't care. And that's what happened again. You elected them and they don't care. They don't like hearing that, but that's the truth. And the worst part about it is we've seen it in their votes before the election. We've seen what they've done before the election. Okay, we even see it after the election. I mean, what went very viral was a picture of the mayor, which was photoshopped into a summer picture with the mayor in a winter coat saying, I'm not afraid to get my hands dirty. And the coloration was all off and it was a wrong picture. I mean, where do the lies stop? Look at the school that we've spent millions of dollars on and the students are afraid to go to school. Absenteeism is a big problem in the Fall River school system. It took them years to figure that out. You know, it would have taken me a week. I mean, I look at the attendance record and go, oh, look, half the students are out. We got a problem. I mean, it doesn't take that long. Then they started blaming it on the teachers. But when the teachers fought back a little bit, they said, oh, absenteeism is not a problem. They formed a committee for absenteeism on students. They formed a committee for absenteeism on this and that and the other thing. But guess what? Have any of them met? They didn't have a problem with the dump. We have a problem with the dump. When will Fall River realize that the lies have to stop somewhere? The lies stop with you and I. The lies stop with the people of Fall River. And I'm going to tell you, as a citizen, as a parent, and as a person who lives in this city, take charge of your life. Take charge of your government. Hold your elected individuals responsible for every vote they take, for every vote they don't take, and every statement they make, whether they like it or not. Even if they are your friends, let them know clearly, business is business, personal is personal. I'm your friend. Chip and I talk about that all the time. We can go, and Chip has done it, and I have done it. We can go and debate for hours, tear each other apart, and walk out the door and say, hey, you want to go have a drink? You want to have a dinner? That's fine, because what happened in there is business. What happens outside those doors is friendship, and they're two different things. I can dislike what you do in your job, but I don't necessarily dislike you as a person. Remember that when you take part in action against your government or action with your government. You have to work for the responsibility of everyone, not just for one. And with this school situation, you need to act together. The more people that show up at that school committee meeting, the more we will show the city that we will not tolerate ignorance of our desires and the ignorance of our child's safety. Support Kristen Ford. Go out to the Henry Lord Middle School and let the school committee and let the mayor know we will not tolerate your inaction, we will not tolerate your cover-ups, and we will not tolerate your lies. We want reported every single day, every incident that occurs in every school across the city, and we want it on the front page of the paper if necessary. We won't tolerate anymore. And with that, I yield.
Well, that was well said, and I will remind everyone how they insult our intelligence. If you looked at the mayor's goals and priorities for his third term, they were the same as they were for the second term. And this is what we have. And as CJ said, we have to hold them accountable. I read a quote in last week's show from Theodore Roosevelt. We not only have to hold them accountable, we're obligated to hold them accountable. You're not being negative when you tell someone they're not doing the right thing and they're not representing you. There are representatives, and it's up to them to do what we want them to do with this community, because this community is in our hands. And with that, remember, when you talk to them, talk straight.
There's no other way to take it. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for joining us. And remember, if you have any comments, complaints, questions, give us a call, send us an email. We're always there to listen. You can find us on Facebook, and we're going to be here again next week. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.